don't want to hear about fucking slavery from people who've never fucking had to deal with it. I don't want to hear about how...
Hi lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Olindo's channel. Thank you so much for all the love and support. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos
Also,
and leave comments.
I came across this video on my For You and I thought to share. Where this pangolin man is calling out people that looks like me, telling them that they really need to get out with the constant talking about slavery and how slavery has actually negatively impacted them. He goes as far as to talk about how the constant talking about what really happened 400 to 500 years ago is so irrelevant that everybody should move on. This has actually, created a room to explain so many things that I was able to stage on this video. I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of other stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. Alright lovelies, share your thought in the comment section. And there is another stitch I put up here which we all gonna learn.
I don't want to hear about fucking slavery from people who've never fucking had to deal with it. I don't want to hear about how I'm fucking racist for the last 40 years of my life because of something that happened 300, 400, 200 fucking years ago. Can we all look at each other and be like, all right?
The reason why this conversation is a never-ending one is because people who take that stance are always willfully obtuse on the subject of oppression when it comes to us. It's so easy to run to the argument that slavery happened 200 years ago, 300 years ago, because then you could just close your mind off to everything that happened after slavery, like i.e. Jim Crow. Jim Crow was this lifetime. Ruby Bridges has an Instagram account. Many of our parents are alive, are only in their 50s and 60s, especially those of us who have families born down south. My father was born in 1965 in Mississippi, a few months before the Voting Rights Act was passed. Guess how old he is? He's barely 60 years old. Jim Crow was just as bad as slavery. But every time we have this conversation, you gloss over Jim Crow and just jump to, oh, well, that happened 300 years ago. Get over it. We have parents still alive from the era where, I'll give you something real quick. When I say my father was born in Mississippi, and I talk to him and my grandmother who are still alive about that time period, just something small. A lot of people, a lot of our parents who were born in Jim Crow couldn't be born in hospitals in the South. Because of lack of resources like driving. There weren't many hospitals in rural areas, or they didn't have adequate staff for the maternity wards. So it was just easier for black people giving birth to give birth at home with midwives. I am the first generation, and I'm 30 something, I'm 38. I am the first generation of males, or just in general from my father's line, paternally, to be born in a hospital. I'll say that slowly. I am the first generation as a 38-year-old to be born in a hospital, because back in Mississippi when my dad was born, it didn't make sense for people to try to drive to Memphis to find a hospital if they were going in labor, knowing they wouldn't get adequate treatment. So they would be born in a shotgun house to a midwife. That's how recent this stuff is, and the people from that time period are still alive. Even after Jim Crow, because people will say, oh, well, now you're bringing up Jim Crow. Even after Jim Crow, things were still happening. Redlining, lynchings, not just down south, but up north. I said this about 3 times on 3 different occasions, and I'll say it again. Maybe the algorithm will pick it up. For those of you in New York City that thinks it's so liberal, go look up Rosedale, Queens in the 70s and see what was happening to our community in Rosedale, Queens. I'll say it a third time. Maybe the algorithm will pick it up. Rosedale, Queens in the 70s. There's a whole documentary on what was happening during that time period. That wasn't 300 years ago. Also in New York City, close to the 90s, meaning this lifetime, 30 years ago, 1989, in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. I want to say Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. People were getting chased and lynched. Ever heard of the name Yusef Hawkins? Go look up Yusef Hawkins in 1989 in New York City. And many, many other things that happened after Jim Crow. So no, we don't have to look to 300 years so long ago when we have stuff happen. Oh, I bring it current because then people say, oh, well, that's 30 years ago. Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina, you were treating citizens like fugitives. People from Louisiana are on this TikTok app sharing their experiences of how they were treated as American citizens in their own country in Louisiana when them levees broke. So don't sit up here and act like institutional racism happened so long ago and you just need to man up and stop crying. Hurricane Katrina. They let them people die as American citizens. That's why we bring it up. Because every time we try to get over it, another situation happens and we have to look and say, well, damn.
You know, people will say black people need to just get over it. They'll say we need to just get over it. Slavery was so long ago. Black people need to just get over it. But it's not just about slavery. It's about today. It's about the fact that I grew up with my parents telling me about Eleanor Bumpurs, who was in the kitchen cooking dinner for her family before she was unjustly unalived by police. It's about the fact that Ayanna Jones is a 7-year-old girl who was taking a nap on the couch and never got the chance to wake up again because the police raided the wrong house. It's about a Tatiana Jefferson who was unjustly unalived in front of her nephew because the police responded to a non-emergency call, yet somehow, some way, they sent bullets through her window. It's about Sandra Bland never making it home after she was unjustly arrested during a traffic stop because she just wanted to finish her cigarette. It's about Breonna Taylor laying in bed with her partner before the police ran in her home without identifying themselves and sent 6 shots through her body, unjustly unaliving her, and then trying to cover it up and still getting away. And today we have Sonya Massey in her kitchen following instructions. They told her to turn off the pot of boiling water. She turned off the water. She goes to dump it out. They accuse her of trying to come at them. She puts her hands up with the oven mitts on. She ducks down. Weapons are already drawn by this point, and she's unjustly unalive. And there's questions about whether or not she deserves it. So when they say black people need to just get over it, slavery was so long ago. It's not just about slavery. It's not about so long ago. It's about systemic oppression as a result of racism that still exists today. It's about the fact that every time we think we've gotten over one hurdle, a new one appears. It's about the fact that, yes, there was slavery. Yes, there was Jim Crow. Yes, there was redlining. But we have Eleanor Bumpurs. We have Ayanna Jones. We have a Tatiana Jefferson. We have Sandra Bland. We have Breonna Taylor. We have Sonya Massey. And so many others. How can we get over it when it's always right in front of us? You know, people will say black people need... Why do black people have to forget about slavery? Black people have to forget about slavery because we are still under attack currently today. So until we can focus and solve the issues that we have right now, we cannot go back into the past and correct what happened 400 years ago. We are under attack today. So we need to start fixing and resolving the issues that we have today with the system. If we could go back, we can get money for slavery, right? And it's not going to help us because they're using different tactics today. Similar tactics, yes. Know your history so that it doesn't repeat. But our history, it extends before slavery. But before we can even untangle that cord, we have to take the shackles off that we have on today, like mass imprisonment, poor education, incorrect identification. We cannot fix. Slavery has already happened. And especially if you consider that black families and black people were thriving post-slavery. So slavery, yes, it did something, right? But it did not limit us. It did not stop us from succeeding once we became free. It's what started happening to us after slavery that got us in the position that we are in right now. So we have to forget about slavery currently and fix what's going on right now. Fix what's happening right now. We got to counter their attacks on us right now. Then after we get to shore, because we're in the water trading, once we get to shore, then we can go back and make them pay for what they did. Because right now, slavery is just a distraction, and they know that. We gotta focus.
Imagine this. You and your entire family are asleep in your home, peaceful, safe, and happy. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, strangers break in. They're armed. They beat your father, they chain your mother, and they drag your children out of bed crying. They don't speak your language. They don't even care about your rights because they're not here to negotiate. They load you onto a filthy ship, and for weeks you're shackled in your own waste. You're barely fed with people dying next to you. You hear screaming. You see children being thrown overboard. And this is not war. This is business. When you reach their land, they sell you like cattle. Your family's ripped apart forever. Your name is taken. Your language is forbidden, and your God is erased. And your body, well, it belongs to them now. You will be worked until you die, and your children will be born into the same horror. Your grandchildren will never know freedom, and 400 years later, their descendants will look at your descendants and say, why can't y'all just get over it? The transatlantic slave trade wasn't just bad. It was a multi-century genocide masked in economics. It wasn't just physical slavery. It was a erasure of entire cultures, families, languages, and futures for profit. If that had happened to your family, would you just move on?
Every once and again, I'll get comments on a video I made a few years back discussing the details and the differences between the Barbary slave trade and the slave trade that affected African Americans here. And of course, they always pull the cute old dusty little, well, actually, Europeans were enslaved too. Y'all always pull that card. Okay, cute. So let's do something that y'all hate to do. And let's use context, historical context, facts, societal implementation of said slave trade, and critical thinking skills. Yes, Europeans, Vikings, Ottomans, Barbary pirates, all had systems where white folks were captured and enslaved and sold. But here's what you're missing. Most of those systems were temporary. They were either ransom-based or for specific uses. They were not hereditary, lifelong, or racialized. Those people were not enslaved because they were white-skinned. And they sure didn't create a multi-billion-dollar economy built on the legal ownership of human beings and the permanent dehumanization of an entire group of people. Yeah, that didn't happen to the Europeans. You see, American chattel slavery, baby, that's unique because it was generational and it was tied directly to your skin. Children, grandchildren, all born into it if you have black skin, or more appropriately, brown. See, you weren't just labor, you were property. We were seen as livestock on paper. And then, of course, you always want to hit us with that, do you know where the word slave comes from? Yes, it comes from the word Slav, because Slavic people were often enslaved by their own people, by other Europeans. It was normal and common, so common for Slavic people to be enslaved during raids, pirate raids, during ethnic war, tribal warfare, let's call it that. And so they were so commonly enslaved by other groups of Europeans that the word just stuck like, yeah, Slav equals slave, you know. That's called etymology. Etymology is about words, not about pretending that all slavery was equal. So trying to pull out all the other types of slavery throughout our history on this planet, because y'all love to do the whataboutisms, does not erase the reality that the transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery in America, was a whole different beast. One that still echoes today in laws, wealth gap, and systemic racism. History is not a competition about who had it worse. But if you can't tell the difference between being captured, held for ransom, and then sent home once the ransom was paid, or being contracted to work as labor until you could pay off such debt and then go about your daily business, and instead being bred like cattle for 400 years, not even seen as human, that's not a history problem. That is a critical thinking problem. You might want to get that checked.
You know, nobody actually wants to remember what happened in the past. I think nobody enjoys talking about it. I think nobody enjoys, coming out to constantly speak about it. If it's not the society that keep reminding how slavery was so evil. They are very, very comfortable and so easy to talk about how, oh my God, black people need to get it off, buckle it off. It's something that happened 100,000 years ago. But it's something that happened 400, 500 years ago is still, it still have impact in our today's society. When I saw this particular speech about Sonya Massey, I have talked so much about this Sonya Massey in my previous commentaries. I felt so emotional because this thing happened. Sonya Massey was supposed to still be with us, but because of the system and because of reasons and because of the kind of person that she is, or because of who she is, because she's a black woman, she's no more here. I don't know if you lovely still remember Sonya Massey. Like her own story was all over the place. It was something that happened, I think, last year, if I'm not mistaken. You know, this lady was in her house. Although I think she had some medical history, some medical challenge, you know. So she was in her home. She never looked for anyone's trouble. She never took anything from anyone. Even in the said video that was circulating all over the social platform, you will clearly see that she is still under a medical, you know, whatsoever. She was looking as someone who is undergoing medication. Even on her wrist in the said video, she was still wearing a tag or something as someone who is still undergoing medicals, you know. So it happened that this lady was just on her own in her house. And one thing led to the other, she started noticing that, you know, it was as if someone was intruding or someone was in her place and she has to call for help. She called 911, right? If I'm not mistaken, please correct me in the comment section. She has to source for help. And that is when this Simon, a pan-colored officer and a colleague of his, Sen or whatsoever his name was, have to come. There were two of them. They came to her house, knocked. She came out from her house, attended to them, told them that she felt that somebody was in her place. She don't feel safe, you know. These people went around her house, checked everything, and they saw that, oh, nobody was there. And she was like, okay, she actually thought that somebody was there. Thank you. Instead of these people to come over there, check, and they found that nobody was there, then keep on moving, like to go back to their place of work or whatsoever they were assigned. They decided that they will not want to start questioning her, asking about the car that was parked outside her house because of, I think, the window of the car was down. So they were asking her for the license of the car or for whatsoever document that they were asking. Before you know it, these people had to go inside her house. Shane or whatsoever his name was, Sean. That story I couldn't even, like, during that period, I was so scared. I was like, what is this? This was the one I actually saw. There are other ones, but this one. So when they get into her house, she was boiling water, right? And before you do it, this particular one that is so like Ray and Sis was like, and before you know it, just because she mentioned, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, when he teased her about not spilling him hot water, and she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. This is when this person felt that it was right for him to do whatsoever he did to Sonia. And when he was asked, he said that he felt threatened by somebody telling you, I rebuke you. That he felt she was about to spill him the water. How can you compare spilled water, even if she wanted it, to the Pe.Ple you have? Not only that did he pew her once, twice, like, and now these people, when you complain, they tell you, oh my God, slavery happened 400 years ago, but the operation is still on in the system. How do you want these people to like to move on if the system does not want to move on? How is it even possible? Anyway, lovely listener, just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. Please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We're just here for educational or informative purposes. So please share this video. Subscribe to this channel if you're here to do that. Like, and I will see you, lovely listener, when I upload the next one.
Subscribe to this channel. Do your girl a huge favor to click on the subscription button, like, and I will see you, lovely, when I upload the next one.